Hi everybody, this is the recording for the Unit 2 U.S. History test. This question has a total of 25 multiple choice questions and 2 short answer questions. If you look at the beginning of the test, you'll actually see a couple of during the test reminders. Please make sure to read through the questions, answer those that you know right away, and copy what you are answering down on paper. This saves your work if you lose power or internet and records what you put on your first attempt of the test. So when you take it a second time, you can be sure not to make any errors the second time around, okay, or to answer the same thing wrong twice. Click Save as you go, copy and paste your essay responses that you have prepared ahead of time into the test. Every unit test review that we do, I tell you guys what the short answer questions are. You're expected to write those ahead of time and to prepare yourself ahead of time so you can just copy and paste those in. Review your notes for questions that are unfamiliar to you. Use your textbook for questions that aren't addressed in the notes. And read over the test once more uh, before submitting it to make sure that everything is okay. Do click submit or else it will not show up to me in the gradebook. The biggest reminder I have for you is do not exit the test before you are done. You cannot start the test, save your responses, and come back to it later. It doesn't work that way. If you do that, you're going to create a test error and you're going to use both of your test attempts, or you'll be locked out of the test and your grade will not correctly record. So please be aware of that. You need to only begin the test if you are ready. Okay, I'm going to begin by reading the questions and the answer options that go with them. Number 1, which did not contribute to the U.S. decision to go to war against Spain? The need to protect U.S. investments in Cuba, yellow journalism promoting war, or the Spanish attack on Puerto Rico? Number 2, which group lists outcomes of the Spanish-American War? Would it be Group A, the Treaty of Paris, Cuban independence, the Philippines and Puerto Rico become U.S. territories? Or would it be Group B, the Treaty of San Juan, Puerto Rican independence, and Nicaragua and Panama become U.S. territories? Group A or Group B? Number 3, the United States acquired several new territories during the late 1800s, which two eventually became states: Alaska and Hawaii, Alaska and Oregon, Hawaii, and California. Negotiations with Colombia resulted in the purchase of a 10-mile wide strip of land that led to President Theodore Roosevelt's greatest achievement. What was that achievement? A guaranteed source of Panamanian gold and silver, permanent oil drilling rights in Panama, or the Panama Canal? Number 5, which of the following is not an accurate matching of a U.S. president with his foreign policy? Franklin Roosevelt with the Monroe Doctrine and the speak softly and carry a big stick policy. Wilson, moral diplomacy. Taft, dollar diplomacy. Number 6, which was the effect of Germany's decision to allow unrestricted submarine warfare? Great Britain stepped up its naval actions and stopped Germany. The British and French prepared to surrender. It was a final action leading to the U.S. declaration of war. Number 7, which policies kept the United States from entering World War I in its final 3 years? Isolationism and neutrality, imperialism and democracy, imperialism and neutrality. Number 8, a stalemate occurs when both sides in a war are in a draw or a standstill and cannot attack. Which of the following was an event that ended the stalemate in World War I in 1917? The invasion of Normandy, a significant German naval victory, or American entry into the war? Number 9, what impact did U.S. entry into World War I have on employment? There was a serious labor shortage that was difficult to fill. The civilian population was unable to keep up with the supply needs of the military, or with men drafted to serve in the military, jobs opened up for women and minorities. Number 10, which of the options below were ways that the government banned dissent or opposition over U.S. participation in World War I? They formed the National Civil Liberties Union, or Civil Liberties Bureau, passed the Espionage and Sedition Acts, or the last option, promoted the Red Scare. In question 11, you're going to use the text above which is part of a famous speech that President Woodrow Wilson gave as World War I was ending. It contained his ideas for world peace after the war. What was the name of this peace plan? Was it the Treaty of Paris, the 14 Points, or the New Deal? Beginning in January of 1919, delegates from all of the Allied countries met at the Paris Peace Conference to negotiate peace treaties between them and the Central Powers. The Allied powers and Germany signed the Treaty of Versailles. Which of the following things did the Treaty of Versailles do? The Treaty of Versailles led to the creation of a world peacekeeping organization called the United Nations. The Treaty of Versailles was favorable to Germany. Or the last option, the Treaty of Versailles forced Germany to accept blame for the war and disarm their military. Number 13. What was a major reason for the U.S. Senate's failure to ratify the Treaty of Versailles? They believed that Wilson should have gained some territory for the United States. They objected to the League of Nations, fearing that it would threaten or limit the United States' ability to govern themselves. They decided that German reparations were not sufficient to meet the costs of war. Number 14. Why are the 20s sometimes called an age of prosperity? The middle class held most of the wealth. Few people were able to purchase cars. The GNP rose dramatically, and the United States changed from a debtor nation to a creditor nation. Number 15. Why did the automobile have a major impact on the United States in the 20s? Traffic began to create traveling problems that the government failed to address. Inexperienced drivers caused numerous accidents that made it difficult for hospitals to provide adequate care. By the end of the decade, automobile ownership had increased dramatically. Number 16. How did the youth culture change during the 1920s? Students were able to remain in school longer, and an adolescent culture developed. No real youth culture existed during the 1920s. Youth were expected to hold jobs that contributed to the welfare of the family. What was the Harlem Renaissance? A new trend in modern art that featured abstract black sculptures, an African American cultural movement that included literature, drama, music, art, and dance, or a more urban name for the Dixieland jazz that developed in New Orleans and was brought to New York. Number 18. What did Nativists and the Ku Klux Klan have in common? Both suspected artists and writers Both supported artists and writers that addressed the cultural changes of the 1920s. Both believed that communists had the same rights to freedom of speech as all Americans, or both objected to immigration and believed in the supremacy of white Protestants. Number 19. What changes did the 18th Amendment bring to America? Women gained the right to vote, so elections focused on different issues. Prohibition of the sale of alcohol brought bootleggers and an increase in organized crime. The draft tripled the size of the military and brought U.S. forces to European levels. Number 20. What event revealed the intense national debate between religion and modern science by debating the right to teach evolution in public schools? The death of Warren Harding, the defeat of Al Smith, or the Scopes trial? 21. What group could be described for the first time in the 1920s with the terms flapper, wage earner, and voter? Women, adolescents, African Americans. Number 22. How did the actions of the presidents above bring the nation into the roaring 20s? They spent a lot of time and money investigating the corruption of big business in America. They were largely inactive and allowed business to operate and grow unregulated. They opened new markets for American products overseas by employing dollar diplomacy. Read and review the quotes above. What are the authors of these quotes discussing? Is it imperialism, isolationism, or neutrality? The headline shown on this newspaper is an example of yellow journalism, investigative reporting, or muckraking journalism? Read the information above and answer the following question. Which of these options below best states that the American government expanded its powers during World War I? The government established and gained war responsibilities that it kept when the war ended. The government wanted economic production to increase during the war. The government allowed labor unions to exist while the U.S. was at war. The desire for raw resources, or I'm sorry, the desire for raw material resources, new countries to trade with, and military bases led to the addition of territories beyond the North American continent. America, once a colony, having broken away from England, struggled and debated over the controversial new role of becoming an empire itself. This was the big idea for Unit 2. When you answer this short answer question, be sure to give page references for all information. You should only be using your textbook and course slides to answer these questions. All responses should be in complete sentences and, of course, in your own words, or you will not receive credit for your answer. Use Unit 2 online course lessons and textbook pages 608 to 669, chapters 27, 28, and 29. The question is, would you have supported American imperialism in the early 1900s? Include at least 2 reasons from the text to explain your opinion. Again, make sure that your 2 reasons are explained and that they are in your own wording. Make 2 comparisons between life for women before the 1920s and compare it to life for women during the 1920s. So you're comparing life for women before to life during the 1920s for women. You can choose one of those options to answer for 26. Number 27 is based on our character trait effort. Explain how one of the following groups showed effort during World War I. Give one example of how the war impacted this group. U.S. civilians in the U.S. during the war, or soldiers fighting in World War I. Good luck on your test.